My fiancé said, I invited my ex to the wedding. If you loved me, you'd understand. I replied, I do understand. Then I quietly contacted his wife and invited her as +1. The rehearsal dinner became legendary when I, Drew, a 32-year-old man who always considered himself reasonably perceptive, realized that love truly does make you stupid. I should have seen the seismic warning signs months ago, but I was blinded by the idea of the future I was building with Jessica, my fiancée of 8 months. We had been together for 3 years, and our wedding was a mere 4 weeks away, 150 guests, a fancy venue booked a year in advance, and all the traditional trappings of a picture-perfect, expensive ceremony. The bombshell dropped last Thursday, ironically, over a quiet, romantic dinner. I was nearly choking on my pasta when she casually announced, so, I invited Trevor to the wedding. Trevor. The name hung in the air like a noxious cloud. He was her college ex, the guy she dated for 4 intense years, the man she almost walked down the aisle with before their lives supposedly drifted apart. The sheer audacity of the move made me pause, my fork suspended in disbelief. You invited your ex to our wedding? I managed, my voice flat. She didn't flinch, maintaining that unnerving, serene smile. Yeah, we're still friends, Drew. It would be weird not to invite him. I tried to be reasonable, to appeal to a shared sense of convention. Jess, that's unusual. It's our day. Her face hardened instantly, the smile replaced by a defensive scowl, a clear switch to the emotional offense. If you loved me, you'd understand. It shows maturity that we can all be adults about this. The implicit accusation of immaturity struck me. Adults? I thought, my mind reeling. You want your ex, the one you almost married, to watch you marry me? I fought the urge to shout the obvious and instead tried to highlight the ridiculous nature of her request. God, you're being so insecure, she retorted, already turning the narrative to my supposed flaws. Trevor's happily married now. His wife couldn't make it because she's visiting family overseas, but he'll be there. It's not a big deal. The way she delivered that detail, his wife couldn't make it, felt practiced, too fluid, too quick, like a lie she'd rehearsed in the mirror. It was that single, subtle cue that made the gears grind in my logical brain. Something was deeply, fundamentally wrong with the symmetry of that statement. I leaned back, trying to appear nonchalant, and asked the seemingly innocuous question that would unravel everything, what's his wife's name? Jessica blinked, her eyes darting away for a fleeting moment. Rebecca, she stammered. Why does it matter? The defensiveness confirmed my suspicion. Just curious, I said, feigning surrender. You've met her several times, of course. I smiled, a cold, calculated mask of acceptance. You're right. I'm being silly. If Trevor's important to you, then I understand. She melted, relieved and self-satisfied. See, this is why I love you, she said, planting a kiss on my cheek, completely oblivious to the fact that she had just initiated her own downfall. That night, my promised understanding vanished, replaced by an investigator's focus. A quick social media search located Trevor easily. His profile was public. His wife's name was not Rebecca. It was Monica. And according to Monica's profile, she was not overseas visiting family, she was a dental hygienist whose workplace was a mere 20 minutes from our wedding venue. Interesting, I thought, the single word hanging in the silence of my apartment, confirming the lie. I spent the rest of the weekend doing more thorough research. The key piece of evidence came unintentionally. Jessica had left her iPad at my place, still logged into her messages. Yes, I admit it, I violated her privacy. But when your fiancé lies about her ex's wife and invites the ex to your wedding, the rules of ethical conduct change. You investigate. The messages were damning. They weren't explicit, no overt declaration of undying love, but they were saturated with emotional intimacy. Remember when, and those were the days, dotted their texts, a nostalgic, treacherous stroll down memory lane. Then came the emotional soft cheating, Trevor saying, "Shame it didn't work out between us," and Jessica responding with the devastatingly ambiguous, "Timing is everything." That phrase was the final nail in the coffin. She hadn't put Trevor in the past, she had merely filed him away, waiting for the timing to be right. Monday morning, I made my decision. I tracked down Monica, Trevor's wife, on social media and sent her a direct message from my real, identifiable account. My message was polite but direct, detailing the lie Jessica had told me about her being overseas and extending a personal invitation to our wedding reception at Riverside Manor. The response arrived within the hour. Overseas? That's interesting since I'm sitting in my office right now. Trevor told me he had a work conference that weekend. Her text was a perfect mirror of my own gut feeling, confirming the mutual deceit. Thank you for reaching out. I'll definitely be attending. A profound sense of cold satisfaction washed over me. Oh, this was going to be good. Jessica wanted an adult situation. She was about to get one complete with all the necessary players. The week that followed my calculated communication with Monica was a masterclass in tension and suppressed chaos. Jessica, completely unaware that I had initiated contact with the true Mrs. Trevor, continued to chatter endlessly about the wedding plans, cheerfully oblivious to the detonation she was hurtling towards. She discussed final menu selections and, most significantly, seating arrangements. Casually, she mentioned positioning Trevor at table 3 with my college friends. My internal alarm bells screamed. I probed gently, why table 3? Wouldn't he be more comfortable with, say, your cousins at table 7? Her frown was instantaneous, a flash of irritation betraying her careful composure. No, that's too far from, table 3 is better. She caught herself just short of admitting the truth, that table 3 was strategically close to the head table, offering Trevor a premium viewing spot and easy access. Meanwhile, Monica and I exchanged a few more messages, cementing our alliance. It became chillingly clear that Trevor had been exhibiting all the textbook signs of infidelity for months: excessive late work hours, a sudden, fierce protectiveness over his phone, and an unexpected, frantic interest in fitness. Monica, though suspicious, lacked definitive proof. I made the difficult decision to share enough about the messages I'd seen to give her the necessary context, though I deliberately kept the tawdry details private. That information alone was enough. Her subsequent fury was volcanic, directed not just at her pathetic husband, but fiercely at Jessica, whom she labeled that manipulative witch. They deserve each other, Monica wrote, the certainty in her words sealing the deal. We finalized our plan. Monica would attend the rehearsal dinner as my surprise guest. Maximum emotional impact, minimal collateral damage to the actual wedding, which, increasingly, felt like it wasn't going to happen anyway. Just 3 days before the rehearsal dinner, Jessica committed one last, foolish escalation. Reviewing the guest list for the intimate dinner, she slipped in the final name, Trevor. I invited him to the rehearsal dinner, too, she announced, attempting to justify it with a transparent lie. He's traveling from out of state, so I thought it would be nice. I managed to suppress my laughter. He lived a mere hour away. That's thoughtful of you, I managed, laying on the sarcasm thick enough to cut with a knife, which she completely missed. The day of the rehearsal dinner, I executed the first phase of the plan. I told Jessica I had to pick up a friend who was having desperate car trouble. Now? The dinner's in 2 hours, she protested. I'll be quick. They're stranded and really need help. You head over. I'll meet you there. She was annoyed, but she ultimately agreed, prioritizing the optics of arriving on time over my vague emergency. I drove to meet Monica. She looked spectacular, dressed in an elegant black dress, her makeup flawless, her demeanor radiating cold, concentrated purpose. You ready for this? I asked, sensing the immense pressure she was under. 3 years of marriage and he's sneaking around with his ex. Oh, I'm ready. We arrived at the private dining room 40 minutes late, ensuring maximum attendance and attention. I walked in first, allowing the room to settle, Monica following a few steps behind. There, at the main table, nestled right next to Jessica, sat Trevor. He was laughing, looking far too comfortable. Jessica immediately stood, her smile wide and relief washing over her face. There you are. We were getting worried. That smile evaporated entirely when her eyes registered the figure walking in behind me. The room fell into absolute silence. Trevor's face went utterly, terrifyingly white. The man looked like he had genuinely seen a ghost from his past life suddenly appear, demanding vengeance. "Hi, honey," Monica said sweetly to her husband, her voice cutting through the thick silence. "Surprise. My trip got cancelled." Jessica's mouth opened and closed soundlessly, like a fish out of water. "Monica, I thought you were overseas," she stammered, the practiced lie failing under pressure. "Yeah, that's what Trevor told me about his work conference this weekend, too," Monica replied, her eyes locked onto Jessica's. Imagine my surprise when Drew reached out to personally invite me. I stepped forward, taking center stage, and delivered the coup de grace. "Everyone, this is Monica, Trevor's wife. She'll be joining us tonight as my guest, since Jessica was so insistent on including Trevor in our wedding celebrations." My mother, bless her intuitive, protective heart, immediately understood the assignment. "Monica, how lovely to meet you. Come sit by me." The stage was set. The rehearsal dinner instantly turned nuclear. Monica sat directly across the table from the two conspirators, between my mother and my sister, the tension creating a visible, physical barrier between the two sides of the table. Jessica valiantly attempted to maintain a facade of normalcy, but her voice was shaky, her composure unraveling. "So, Monica," Jessica attempted, forcing a smile, "how long have you and Trevor been married?" 3 years, Monica replied, taking a deliberate sip of wine, her gaze unwavering. "Though apparently, I should ask you how long you've been texting my husband." A spoon clattered onto a plate. Someone coughed loudly. Trevor looked like he was actively trying to dissolve into the linen tablecloth. "We're just friends," Jessica insisted, a pathetic squeak of a denial. Monica wasn't having it. She pulled out her phone, holding it up like an executioner's axe. "Friends don't text at midnight. Friends don't send shirtless gym selfies. Should I read some of these out loud?" Trevor finally broke, his voice a desperate, miserable whisper. "Monica, please. Not here." Monica laughed, a sharp, brittle sound devoid of humor. "Not here? Where then? At your fake work conference? Or maybe during one of your client dinners that Jessica somehow always knew about?" My groomsman, Kyle, whispered aloud, stunned, "Holy hell," which echoed through the silent room. Jessica, facing utter humiliation, turned her watery eyes on me. "Drew, this is a misunderstanding." "Is it though?" I asked calmly, my voice the only steady thing in the room. "Is that why you lied about Monica being overseas? Why you put Trevor at table 3? Why you invited him to the rehearsal dinner? You set me up." "No, Jess, you set yourself up. I just invited his wife to the party you planned." Jessica's father finally intervened, demanding to know what was going on. Monica gave him the brutally honest summary: "Your daughter's been having an emotional affair with my husband. Maybe physical, I don't know yet, but she invited him to her wedding while explicitly making sure I wouldn't be here." Jessica screamed her denial, but I cut her off, my phone in hand. "Should I show everyone the messages? The ones where Trevor says, 'Can't wait to see you in your dress,' and you respond, 'It's bad luck for the groom to see it, but not for you'?" Jessica's mother gasped. Her father's face turned from confusion to a deep, dangerous purple. Trevor, sensing the inevitable, stood up to leave. "We're leaving. Monica laughed again. No, honey. You can leave. I'm enjoying my dinner. She then turned to my mom, the absolute legend, and complimented the food. My mom, raising her glass to honesty in relationships, led half the room in a toast. The performance was complete. After Trevor slunk out of the dining room in utter humiliation, his tail firmly between his legs, Jessica went into full meltdown mode. It wasn't the quiet, sad type of crying, it was an angry, entitled, snotty, entitled rage. How dare you humiliate me like this, she screamed, pointing her trembling finger across the table. How dare I? I repeated, incredulous. You invited your ex to our wedding. It wasn't like that. We're just friends who happen to have history. Monica, still sipping her wine with icy composure, laughed bitterly. History that was actively repeating itself, she corrected. Jessica's father, whose face still held the shock of the raw humiliation, demanded the full truth. Jessica, is this true? Have you been inappropriate with this man? She scrambled for control, falling back on deflection. Dad, Drew is blowing this out of proportion. He violated my privacy, went through my messages. I interrupted, ensuring everyone understood the root deception. You said her name was Rebecca. Her brother, Jake, who had been silent until now, shook his head in disgust. Jess, what the hell? The mask finally slipped completely, revealing the selfish core of her motivation. You know what? Fine. Yes, Trevor and I have been talking. Yes, I wanted him at the wedding. He was the one who got away. Okay? I needed to see if I was making the right choice. The room erupted into shocked chatter. Her mother began to cry in earnest. Her father stood up so fast his chair crashed to the floor. At your wedding, he roared, his voice thick with betrayal. You were going to decide at your wedding? I actually laughed, a hollow, relieved sound. Well, that makes this easier. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out an envelope I had prepared days ago. Consider this my wedding gift. It contained the itemized invoice for every single deposit I had paid, venue, catering, flowers, band, a whopping $18,000 in total. What's this? Jessica asked, looking confusedly at the figures. Your dad can explain, I said, looking directly at him. Since he insisted on doing things traditionally, where the bride's family plans the wedding, but I pay for it. Well, the wedding's off. These are all non-refundable deposits in my name. I delivered the final blow. If you want to use them for your next wedding, maybe to Trevor, after his divorce, your family can reimburse me. Her father's face went from purple to pure white. He knew the financial hit was crippling. Monica, seizing the moment, stood up. Speaking of receipts, Trevor, expect to hear from my divorce attorney Monday. I'll be taking half of everything, including your precious boat. She looked at Jessica, a look of pity mixed with contempt. You can have him when I'm done. Good luck with a cheater who lives with his mother after I take the house. Jessica devolved into truly ugly. Crying, full snotty, desperate sobbing. Drew, please. We can work this out. I choose you. You choose me? I countered. How generous. After you got caught, you choose me. Her sister, Emma, who had remained quiet throughout the ordeal, finally broke her silence. Jess, you're a complete idiot. You had a good man and you threw it away for what? Some guy who cheats on his wife. Emma's honest outburst was the last gasp of sanity. The dinner ended with Jessica's family falling into furious, chaotic argument, Monica exchanging numbers with my sister, and me walking out feeling lighter than I had in months. My text response to Jessica's inevitable, "You ruined my life," text was simple: no, you ruined your own life. I just refused to be collateral damage. The next 3 days were pure insanity. Jessica launched a campaign of love bombing, showing up at my apartment with flowers and wearing lingerie, a truly transparent, manipulative attempt to salvage the situation. I stood my ground. Jess, you were using our wedding as a test run for your feelings. That's beyond repair. When she tried to push past me, claiming they needed to talk properly, I shut the door. No, we don't. Please leave before I call security. The moment she invited him, she threw away our 3 years. When manipulation failed, she went nuclear on social media, posting a sob story about me being controlling and jealous. Big mistake. Monica, my unlikely ally, immediately commented, "Innocent friendship? Is that why you told him I was overseas while planning to seat him near your wedding table?" Monica then posted screenshots, not all the dirty details, but enough, Trevor referencing that weekend in wine country, and Jessica confirming it was the best 48 hours ever, proving they had been together just 2 months prior during her supposed work retreat. Jessica's victim narrative crumbled under the weight of documented truth. Her mother called me, pleading for privacy, to which I coldly replied, Jessica made it public when she invited Trevor to the wedding. At least I gave her the courtesy of doing it at the rehearsal, not the actual ceremony. The final barrage came from the flying monkeys, her friends, all trying to convince me she made a mistake and that I should think of the guests. My response to each was the same, surgical truth. She invited her ex she's been emotionally cheating with to our wedding and lied about his wife. Would you marry someone who did that? Most stopped responding. 2 weeks before the would-be wedding date, Jessica's dad called, defeated. They would reimburse the $18,000 to formally cancel the vendors. Within 48 hours, I had a check. Meanwhile, Monica's divorce was moving at light speed due to Trevor's sloppiness. She found credit card charges, dinner receipts, and the ultimate smoking gun, a second phone hidden in his car. The second phone contained the full truth, including a draft email where Trevor was planning to object at my wedding. He messaged Jessica, "If you give me the signal during the ceremony, I'll stand up. We can run away together." Jessica's response? "That's so romantic, but let me see how I feel in the moment." She was going to decide at the altar. I forwarded the screenshot to Jessica with one final message, "You're a sociopath." I forwarded her novel-length reply, explaining how I was too boring and safe, and how she settled for me, to her father. His 2-word response, "Jesus Christ." The day that would have been our wedding, I went golfing with my groomsmen. That evening, at the expensive steakhouse Jessica always deemed too much, Kyle showed me his phone. Jessica had worn her wedding dress and posted photos at the venue alone, with captions like "the wedding that should have been." The comments were brutal. Monica delivered the final, public blow, "Same dress you were going to wear while deciding between your fiancé and my husband." Classy. 3 months later. I've taken a trip to Europe with the deposit money and met Anna, an incredible woman who laughs until she cries at this story. Monica is thriving, divorced, promoted, bought Trevor's share of the house, and is now engaged to a doctor. We remain friends. Trevor lost everything, living in a studio apartment. Jessica is back with her parents, posting ignored, cryptic quotes. Jessica's dad still sends me Christmas cards, thanking me for exposing her. I didn't respond to Jessica's final text, but I am happy. I trusted my gut, I called Monica, and I refused to marry someone who used our wedding as a relationship test drive. The rehearsal dinner manager even framed a photo of that night, labeling it, "The Dinner from Hell," using it for training. We are memorable. I don't regret the public confrontation. Jessica deserved a public response for her public disrespect.